Hello, everybody. Welcome again to another episode of the Minnesota Swim and Vibecast. I have a very special guest today, Wayzata boys head coach David Plummer. You may also recognize his name from the University of Minnesota. And I think there's some Olympic swimming in there too, if I remember correctly, not too long ago. So welcome, David.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So why I want to have David on today is there's some breaking news in the last month out of Wayzata that they got approval through, I believe, a referendum to build their very own pool. How exciting is that for you?
Kind of unbelievably exciting, right? Like I still can't believe that, right? This thing went out to referendum and first time got a yes vote, right? Like it's pretty amazing that we've had the support that we've had. So I'm stoked.
Yeah, and I think I want to get a little bit into that. For those of you that don't know the process and everything it goes into actually getting to this point, I think that's actually 80% of the work. Once it's approved and getting it built, yeah, there's work there too. But talk like, when did this start? When did the idea first pop in people going, I think Wayzata needs a pool? Because they don't have their own competitive pool. For those who don't know, Wayzata practices and competes at Lifetime.
Yeah, yep. So we do run everything out of the Lifetime facility. We do have a couple of 6-lane pools at the middle schools,
Oh,
but
I
they're
swam in both of those, East
yeah,
and
yeah,
West.
yeah.
I know them well.
Yep. So right, like obviously not big enough to even host a high school dual meet.
No.
But right, I think the big thing that sort of came up was right, just knowing that the lease with Lifetime was coming due, and not feeling super confident. I think from the administration standpoint that was going to get renewed.
Oh, wow.
And I think that, right, like, so that I think put a little pressure on, something probably needs to happen here. But at the same time, like, it's been a really good partnership with Lifetime.
Yeah,
I think they're just at the
absolutely.
point where it's like, this facility, we really want it to be for our members. And
Yeah.
which is completely fair as someone
Yep.
who has worked out at Lifetimes, right?
Yeah.
But I think that was kind of what started the whole sort of conversation. I think the two big things we had going for us were, right, our superintendent kind of saw this referendum as his legacy, right? Like he's announced that he's retiring. We have a
Yep.
new superintendent coming in, and so he put a lot of attention and energy to, right, like this massive referendum. And for reference, I think it's one of the biggest in state history at like $500
Oh, yeah.
million.
I think it is the biggest, to be
Yeah,
honest with you, if I
yeah,
remember correctly.
it's massive, right?
Yep.
So, and we're expecting, huge growth in the district, kind of top to bottom, and
Yep.
so lots needed to be done. Um,
And
so,
your
so
middle schools are outdated, right?
yeah,
I
yep,
know those
yeah,
haven't changed since I was a wee lad very much,
yep,
and certainly can't support the population. I think you touched on an interesting point is when you're looking at doing something like this, whether it's a new pool, a significant upgrade or rebuild or add-on, a referendum is your tie-in, right? You're not going to get someone to write you a check for this out of a referendum cycle. You need to be aware of what's going on holistically with the district so you can kind of start seeing that ahead of time and start working your way into that conversation. Correct?
absolutely, absolutely. I can't imagine. Right, there may have been another path to this, but I
Boy,
don't
that's a
know
lot
that
of plasma donations.
right,
I don't
yeah,
know,
and I
right?
don't know that, right, you would have gotten the $31 million price tag,
Yeah.
by
No.
any means, right? So yes, 100%. I think that's the way to go. Yeah, yeah, and right, the other thing we really had going for us was our high school principal's daughter was on the swim team, right? So
Okay.
I
So
think
you got a
you
connection.
you got a connection, and right, I think they really understood, the other kind of back and forth with Lifetime is, it's just kind of like we don't have any other teams where we would just let the public be there for a practice,
Right.
right? And that was the reality at Lifetime, right? Like members are all over the place in there when we're practicing, and that can get just, sort of
It's
uncomfortable.
awkward. It's
Yeah.
awkward,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Like, imagine I'm trying to think of me running a practice and people keep walking through the pool deck. Not that I have like closed secret practices, but come on, it's got to
Right.
be distracting. And
Yeah,
with
right here.
boys,
Yep.
any little thing's a distraction for them.
Very much so. Very
Right?
yeah. So yeah,
Oh,
I think that's a lot of right, sort of where the support came initially
good.
for getting something like this done. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think one of the things I'm keen in is you had early administration support.
Mhm.
And probably the rarest of all rare, you had an administration that proactively probably reached out to you and said, "We're kind of thinking this. What's your thoughts? How bad do we need that? Is that true?"
Yeah, honestly,
Or they
I
even go
I think
farther and like, "We really
think
want
they
to do this.
I think
Help
they
us
went
out."
further than that, and we're like, "Hey, this is kinda gonna be on the docket. Can you, lend some support where you can?" And obviously, as soon as I heard, I was, jumping on the phone too. I'm like, "How can I help?"
Yeah.
"What can I
What do you
do
need?
to get it across the line here?" But I'm still kind of amazed at how proactive our administration has been with the whole project. It's been just awesome, to feel that support.
Yeah, I'll pause there and just say super huge thank you to the Wayzata School District administration for having that vision and thinking about swimmers. We are often a lower tier sport in my mind, and that's okay. But we can't completely be ignored, and to have that feels really, really good. And I wish you whatever you need from Minnesota Swim and Vibe. We can't do much, but we'll support it because that's a rarity, and I just want to say thanks to them because that's what we need more of out there, right?
Yeah, absolutely, right, and at a time where, not only at the high school, level, but at the college level, there's a lot of uncertainty about, kind of future of programs and facilities. This is, again, just amazing support, so we're really excited.
So talk to me a little bit about your involvement in the early phases. What was your role to kind of help get this thing across the finish line?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, I think about the extent of my role is just as much communication as I possibly could,
Yeah.
right? Because it's going out to referendum, and it has to be families in the community that are voting on this thing, right? It's just I think the people that are closest to it, right? The parents that have kids on the team, I think they see, right? That would be a huge deal.
Yep.
But I think the tough thing
But
is,
that's a small percentage of the people that vote on this, right?
totally, right?
Like this is a big school district and you're talking about maybe 100 families.
Very, very
How do you
much
get
so.
the rest of them, right?
Yeah, and I think that's where, like, right, like, jumping on Wayzata has a podcast that they do, so, right,
They
me
do.
and a couple others from the team, we had a parent and one of our swimmers jump on that and just kind of explain, "Here's the way we see it, here's the opportunity, here's the, kinda current challenges." And I think things like that helped. I know our superintendent did. I'm just I think for like months on end leading up to the vote, he was just doing presentation after presentation with anybody that would listen. And right, we're kind of hamstrung as like technically I'm a district employee, so I can't tell people how to vote in my official role. I think people could make an assumption of what I would prefer. But right, like so we're just trying to get as much information out there to, the general public as we possibly can.
Did you do any work kind of identifying kind of key advocates to help spread that message for you? Kind of those people in the community you know that kind of know everybody and support you? Did you have any of that work going on?
Yeah, so there was we did a little bit of work with there was kind of a like a vote yes committee that
Yep.
was formed. And essentially the kind of goal with that, right? There's a lot of communication materials that were created by the district, and that kind of gets cascaded. But really, like, the plan was that committee is like, all right, we're going to connect with one person. The goal for that person is to connect to 10 people,
Yeah.
right? And
We've done
just
that before.
like
Yeah.
just get them to get out there and understand what we're doing and vote on the day when it comes down to it. So I think that really played in our favor to connect with the people who were connecting with other people, right? Who have, kind of a broad network within the community.
That's outstanding. What were a couple of your key selling points when you go back to talk, reaching out to people? You got the administration, so you don't have to sell them on it at this point. But what's the value proposition for people? I'm going to pay more taxes, and I get what out of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think from my perspective, right? Like there's the sort of obvious things for the teams, right?
Yep.
To be on campus, to not have to worry about kind of the travel in between, and kind of the rushing right after school. So I think there's some of those safety concerns that we can kind of alleviate. But I think the other, probably bigger thing that resonates outside of the aquatics community is, right, like, the programming in a pool can just reach so many people, right? Like,
Yeah,
we can do things for community members that they may not have access to otherwise, right?
correct.
Whether that's, master swimming or aquatics programming, and right, I think the other challenge was, the way our principal put it was, we're building this for people who may not even live in the district yet, right?
Yep,
Like, because houses are going up, so it's there was a lot that was done to kind of communicate to the younger families, right?
yep.
Families with younger kids in the district, to say this is really a meaningful thing, and we can expand programming in a pretty significant way to be able to support, everybody in the community, not just the high school teams.
Yeah, that's an important part when you can tie in, I think, the broad reach of an aquatics facility, right? It's not just a high school swim team. Could be masters. Could be you have an amazing synchro program there.
Yep.
It could be open swim. It could be lap swim. It could be water aerobics. I talked about log rolling. There's all sorts of different things that you could have in there. Just recreational swimming that's not competitive for kids. You if you build that right, you can use that. It's not going to lose money, and it'll probably actually make you some money. Um, and then on top of it, the longevity piece, right? This isn't just a point in time thing where only you can use it when you're 15, 16. You're
Yep.
talking about kids that are just learning to swim all the way to people that, like me, are at the end of their swim life, right? That just want to kind of putz around a little bit. That's a broad reach, and that's a great selling point. I like how you
Right.
frame that. That's
Yeah.
two really interesting angles that I think kind of reach everybody, right?
Yeah, as much as we can, right? I think you're always gonna have people who are like, "More taxes is bad."
Yeah, but you're not going to
Yeah.
stop that.
Right.
That's their
And
right to say so.
yeah,
Do
absolutely.
it through your
And
vote and move on.
yeah. And I think the thing that we have going for us in this community, at least from what I've seen, is right. Like, I met somebody at the high school the other day who works in facilities, and he's like, I don't know that anybody's moving to this district because Plymouth is a thriving metropolis, right?
Yeah,
He's like, they move here for the schools, right? And we've invested in the schools. And even if you don't have kids currently in the schools, you see that, like, the value of that sort of, you know,
yeah,
attracting people to move to this area is positive for everybody in the long term, right?
yeah.
So the more we continue to invest in schools, the better it is for everybody in the community. Because eventually, if you want to sell your home, right, and
It's
schools
the
are
first
good,
thing you look at, right? If you're gonna have
that's a
kids or
lot
planning
easier.
on it or
Yep.
do, what are the schools like?
Yep. So that
Yeah,
that I think visibility and investment has been big.
I bet. What was the night of the referendum like for you? When you're sitting there knowing people are out voting and you're trying to get a sense of where it's going, what was that like?
Yeah,
Yeah.
super stressful, and right, like, it's a small enough vote that it's not like Care 11 or somebody's like
Yeah, there
giving
this
you live
tickering.
tweets on how everything's going, right? So, yeah, I was trying to get some as much information as I could along the way. Nothing came out. AI just straight up lied to me and was like, "Actually, I think
That's what
there's some
AI
good
does.
news." Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So that was super helpful. And then right, I think, 10:15, we got an email that came in that was like, they all passed, and it was like, that can't really all three of them, right? Like, it happened. So yeah, it's just, I feel like still kind of disbelief that, right, there's that level of support, and it was a 60-40 on just the pool. The
Yeah.
pool was its own question, and
That's not even let's have a revote, right? Or
right,
recount.
right, yeah,
That's
it was
another
big.
interesting point. You guys had a tiered question list, right?
Yep,
For those who aren't aware, it's not like all or nothing. It's one, two, and three. And sometimes three is dependent on two, and two is dependent on one.
yep.
Where were you at in the order? Where was the pool? Was it two or three? Because I know it
Yeah,
wasn't
it
one.
was it was 3. The first one was pretty straightforward. It was really just sort of like a renewing, technology levy.
Okay. Yep.
So everybody was pretty confident that one was gonna go. 2 was the big one that included, right, like building a brand new middle school, building a
Yep.
brand new, elementary school, and then doing some construction on just about every facility we have,
Yeah.
in some way, shape, or form.
Yep.
So that was the big one, and then the pool was number 3, and it was contingent on number 2
Dude.
passing,
Yeah.
right? So, I think when we first heard that, like, pool is contingent and it's been pulled out and made its own thing, it was like, there may not
Ah.
be much, right, support as we think, but right, that was the guidance that the district got from
Yeah.
people who have done a lot of these things, and I think even early on, our superintendent told me that, like, when they initially did some polling, it was a coin toss. It was kinda 50-50 on whether or not it would pass, and it was, like, too much to risk, the full
Yep.
package
Yeah. And
if
I
the
get
polls
that,
do
right? That
well.
when you put your big picture hat on, you're like, I don't want to kibosh the new middle school because of my pool.
For sure, for sure. So totally made sense, but also made everybody in the aquatics
Yeah.
community a little more nervous, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, pass with kind of flying colors, which was awesome.
I was happy to hear it. I was spreading the news amongst friends when I read it, and always good to hear. So, what's next now that this thing is passed? Does everyone get a shovel and you start digging a hole? Is it like a team building thing, or
Yeah,
what's
yeah,
the plan? What's the timing roughly?
yeah,
Because I know
they
it will change.
they have not handed out shovels yet, but I'm looking forward to that.
That'll be fun.
No, that it'll honestly, it'll be a pretty long window just because the sort of question 2 was so big,
Yeah.
right? Because we're, building new facilities and those schools have to come first, which again makes total sense.
Yep.
And then there is some complexity because the plan is to build the pool at the high school, right? So that,
Interesting.
yeah, so that right campus is obviously huge. I still
Yeah.
can't believe how big our campus is. But it means, how do you fit it into the current design? How do you kind of plug into to hopefully some existing resources
Yep.
like locker rooms and things like that? So there's a lot to do, and
And how do you
I,
not disrupt the entire school year? Right.
yeah, yeah. And right, like in thinking about programming too, kind of like we talked about, right? Like how do you make sure that there is some space if community members, right? Like if we have
Yep.
programming for folks during the day, like what does that look like?
Yeah.
So I
An
think
entry
lots of
question, right? Like I
yeah,
talked to people about
yep,
this, like it kind of needs its own access if you want to run daytime programming, which you should, because it's a great money maker.
yep,
But you can't have people like running through the school to get to the
right,
pool. You got to
absolutely,
have an outward facing entrance and can lock the rest down. Those
yep,
are like those little things you never think about,
yep, yep.
but
So
you are.
lots, I think lots to figure out, right? And I think the thing I'm going to continue to try to push the district on, and they've been really thoughtful about. It. So I'm more excited about it than nervous. Is like what is the Wayzata aquatics community, right? Like what is the
Yes.
vision for that, right? Like how
Who's going
big?
to lead that vision? That's another big one.
Yeah, right.
Right? That's a whole
Yeah.
to me, a
So
person dependent thing. Like, you get the right person, it could be gorgeous. You get the wrong person, it's gonna be a challenge.
it can be difficult, yeah, and there's so much I think sort of collaboration, that needs to happen and, right, sort of building out
Yep,
right, like, I think any facility that, any school, any, whatever that hosts a lot of different sports, I think
yep,
there's always some, like, who's gonna get what in all of that. And I think our district has done a really nice job of like, we're gonna do what's best for the kids. We're not
yep,
gonna treat, obviously football is a different beast, hockey is a different beast, but at the same time, it's like, the kid that's in theater, it means as much to them as, the quarterback means,
yeah,
their experience means to them, right?
yep,
And I think there's been a lot of support for that at Wayzata. We talk about like trying to make the school feel small as much as we can, right? So you have your people, you have your community, and that's been right. Like that's not me saying that. That's a lot of other people saying it. So
yeah,
I
and that always feels right when you can have a program and an experience that you can tailor to a lot of different, I don't wanna say needs, but wants, and make everyone feel like they belong to part of that. That's a really big deal,
yeah,
especially instead of trying to make kids tailor to what you're providing.
right, right.
you meet them more that way, and that just has such a better feel to it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Not the
So yeah.
hierarchical totem
Yeah,
pole
right?
pecking order, like, this
Yeah,
team gets first, this team gets second, everything else goes to whatever's left.
right. And
It's
yeah,
more organic.
for sure. And there's some reality to that, right? Like
Yep.
I've thought that ever since, being a gopher, right? Like we didn't sell out our swim meets. The football team was selling a few more tickets than us,
Yep.
right? And there's some reality there. But again, that experience is important, and if we're in education first, then we got to do everything we can to support the kids across everything.
I 100% agree. What are some of the aspects of this pool? I'm sure they have some rough designs, not obviously super detailed, but aspects of this pool that you're super excited about.
Yeah, honestly, to my knowledge, we have 0 designs,
Okay, so
right?
you
Like,
can still get in the coaching hot tub that's by the
that's
pool
the hope, that's the hope.
that you just coach from, because that's kind of high on my list.
That's the key, that's the
Yeah,
key.
I mean,
Yep,
that's top priority. What are
yeah.
some things that are important to you then, as you start the design process?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is, like, right, this no surprise to anybody, it's like how much lane space can you get, right?
Yep.
Can you get a big enough second tank to run diving and synchro, right?
Yep.
Like, what sort of expansion can you get? And then, right, like, thinking backwards, what kind of programming can we host, kind of overall, but I do, right? Like you said it earlier, the synchro community is huge in Wayzata, and we've had a ton of success. And I think honoring that as much as we can, and right, like we know that diving is not seeing a ton of like new membership. We're not seeing a ton of growth there,
Yeah.
and we want to, right? Like diving's an awesome sport, and we want to support it as much as we possibly can. And
Yep.
so I think it's how do we design with kind of the full scope in mind? And then the next one is, right, like I want to host events, right?
Yep.
Like you want to be a place where you can, right? Lake Conference is big and getting bigger, and our section is a big section. And I think the more we can, support running events for those groups, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, that would be amazing. How about spectator seating? Is that a big thing for you?
Yes, I
You have
think
to
it.
keep it in mind, right? I think
Yeah,
I see
I
a
think
lot of amazing pools where still up top you can't fit many people in.
Yeah, I think it has to be. I mean, the lake conference for swimming right now is I think we're at 8, 9 schools, right? Like
Yeah, I think you're at 9 with Maple Grove popping in.
yeah, yep. So we've grown significantly
Yeah,
in the
and these
past.
aren't small programs either, right?
No,
These
right?
are your
Yeah,
50 kid programs.
for sure. So right, like comes up every meet, like right, how are we gonna get exhibition heats in, and how are we gonna,
Yep.
So I do think, right, like being able to host families, being able to host students, right, like all of that is really meaningful. And if you can create a cool experience for people to watch,
Yeah.
right, like that just makes it more and more exciting and kind of builds up that community that I think is so important.
And you can and people argue with me all this. I'm like, if you have the space, you can create the excitement to fill it, no
Yeah.
matter what your team is. Um, but you got to have the space first.
Yep. Yep.
That's for
And
sure.
right, like this is where, right, like I love high school coaching so much. Right, like I love all of it, right?
Yep.
I'm a swimmer through and through. But the high school format is so much fun.
It's
Dual meets,
dessert swimming, man. It's
yeah,
an
man,
hour and a half. It's all short stuff and it's boom,
so
boom,
good.
boom.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so team oriented.
Yeah.
So that piece of it, right? Like you said about the atmosphere, like it's sort of a field of dreams. Like if you build it, they will come,
Yep.
right? So obviously, a lot to do to get there, but I think we can do some cool stuff.
Oh, I know you will. How do you, and this is just more of a bigger question. So when I think of building an aquatics ecosystem, there's one set of the community that would thrive in shallow and warm water. Then there's the competitive that wants deep and cold.
Yeah,
And then there's the divers that want deep and warm. But
deep and
anyway,
wide.
right? Like,
Yeah.
how do you manage all that?
Yeah, right. Like I think, and again, this is gonna be my opinion, right, like, I only speak for the district so
Yep.
much. My thought is, right, like, how do you look at it, right? We do have 2 other pools, right?
Yeah.
Those pools are
That is
there.
an advantage.
Um, so if you can think of it as like a full sort of aquatics ecosystem to say, right, how are we staffing, how are we programming all of these facilities
Yes.
to where it makes sense, right? Of like this group is here, that group is there,
Yep.
right? Like you don't want hierarchy or where people, feel like they're not being taken care of, but at the same time, it's like what's going to be the best fit for
Yep.
each group. And I think if you can think about it holistically like that, it gets a little bit easier.
Yeah, that is true. I think Minnetonka did a great job with that model
Yes. Yep.
with their main pool, the old West pool. They actually, shelled the whole thing out.
Yep.
And then they used Williston and a couple other places for additional or the marsh, or I don't remember what it is, but
Yep. Yep.
and balance
And
it
right,
that
like
way.
right, like, I knew a handful of people that kinda went through, right, like, I knew the coaches, right, like, after MME was built, I was actually training over there for a little bit, so I got to know a lot of those folks that were a part of that project, and they were like, "It's weird when you're designing this new thing because it's like, well, we gotta let everybody be in the new fancy facility, when Learn to Swim actually might make more sense in that warm, shallow water, 6-lane pool that
Yeah,
we have." So I do think, right, thinking about it holistically makes the most sense, and right, like, it also makes it the easiest for people to experience, right?
yep,
Like, that's the other thing I think about of, like, folks that have been in the swimming community or swam themselves know how to navigate it for their kids. I think it's always a difficulty when you're going into a new sport when you don't have experience of like, how does this work? Like there's learn to swim and then there's this sort of, is there a club team? Do I gotta go to Eden Prairie or,
yep,
up north to be on a club team? I think if you can get that right and there's sort of clear steps between, you can kind of bring people into that community and make it a little bit easier, right? As
yeah,
opposed to, what comes next and how do I find what comes next? And I feel that way all the time. I got one son who's a swimmer and one son who wants nothing to do with swimming. And it's like, how do I navigate football and how do I navigate basketball? And,
right. And yet
I
the
was
complicated one swimming you got mastered, right?
yeah, right? I was a swimmer from age 5, like, I don't know anything about these
Yep.
other sports,
Yeah,
So, I think the easier we make it, the better it gets.
I completely agree. That's awesome. And as a guy that swam high school at Minnetonka West, I thought that pool was fine. I
Yeah,
don't know what the
th
problem was.
those awesome blocks.
It's too funny. I always like when they have masters practice over because it's warm again. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah,
I like that now. All
yeah.
right, let's wrap her up. Let's say there's coaches listening, parents listening. Uh, they're not. They think their facility obviously is in need of some help here. What advice would you give them to focus on, or the first couple steps, just to even get that going and to try to maintain that momentum?
Yeah, I think as much as you can, it's sort of community building, right? It's like
Yeah,
who are those advocates within the system that you can kind of lean on, and how do you and more likely, how do you build those advocates, right?
yep,
How do you make them see the value of the programming and right from learn to swim all the way through. I do think you have to think about it as holistically as you can, and then it's kind of that community mobilizing, right?
yeah,
Like as you and I were kind of talking beforehand, it's like this is never a month project. It's rarely a year project.
no,
It's a multi-year thing, whether it's a new pool or renovation of a facility. Like
yep,
it's never quick, and it takes
no.
a
And
lot
it's
of
not
time.
like there's annual referendums, right?
Yeah,
You probably
right.
get a shot a decade at a referendum. Uh,
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you got to be patient, I think, in there too, and understand that as much as you may not like where you're at right now, you kind of have to position yourself in the right spot for when that does opportunity does kind of come up.
Yep.
Is a big thing.
Yeah. And right, like and again, being involved in that sort of Minnetonka stuff as it was rolling, like that stuff doesn't happen without a handful of volunteers,
Yeah,
that were just champions of the program and champions of the renovation, right? Like there are those folks who and weren't even really swimmers growing up. They were just like, "This is a cool opportunity. This is
Yeah.
something that could be really meaningful for my kids and other kids in the community," and they took the time to lean in and right, they've been reaping the benefits for a decade now.
Yeah.
It was
And that's, I
awesome.
think, the other challenge is a lot of your parents, at least at the high school level, probably have a 5 or 6 year window and they're gone,
Yep,
right? Like to find these people that are going to be invested in the decade run of this whole thing, it
yeah,
takes a lot of scouting and finding the right people and leveraging their strengths a lot of
yep,
times, right?
absolutely,
Like me,
absolutely.
I always try to find people that are a little more elegant with the communication. That's not my, I'm more of a bull in a china shop guy, right? I like to just go in and start running my mouth, and that's not always helpful. So
There's a time and a place for everything. There's a time
there
and a place for everything.
is, and my timing's usually a little off, but that's okay. I do what I can. I do what I
Right
can.
on, right on.
Well, that's outstanding. I'm excited to hear more. Maybe we can touch base and then sometime next year and see if there's plans or what maybe some vision of what it's going to look like.
Absolutely.
And absolutely, again, thank you, Wayzata School District Administration. You probably never watched this, but I'm a huge fan of you guys right now for having that kind of vision for your aquatics programming. You will reap the benefits, I assure you.
Right on. Agreed, agreed.
All right. Take care, my friend.
Thanks.
Congratulations.
Absolutely, appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Yep.